Hi, everyone. My name is Jeanette Beigel. I am a first grade teacher here at the Key School. I also attended Key School from first grade through 12th grade, graduated in 2004, went to college and came right on back. I loved it so much. So I've been here for 13 years and absolutely love teaching the children at Key and working with the families we work with. So welcome. We're so glad you're here and to show you a little bit about our year and what it looks like day to day. And mostly just want to get to know you and take questions and things that you're wondering. And I'll pass it to Kera Matsui.
Hi, I'm Kera Matsui. This is my 4th year at Key. It is an amazing environment, as you saw from the video. And I just enjoy being here so much. I'll pass it to Catherine.
You guys heard from me a little bit in the webinar. I'm Catherine Hudson. I'm a learning specialist. I am currently first grade teacher as well. I've been at Key School as a teacher for 12 years. I have been a parent at Key. I have a child who graduated. She is about to graduate from college now. She was from kindergarten through graduation. And then my son graduated last year from Key School. He was also kindergarten through 12th grade. So we are a dedicated and devoted Key family. And I'm really actually kind of excited to be teaching the first grade this year. It's been a lot of fun. This is a fantastic team. As a matter of fact, the one team I'd be willing to walk into and teach anything with at any time.
Thanks, Catherine. Yeah, it's been a really, obviously a strange year, but it's really gone well. The kids are still so joyful and working so hard and learning, and we've just been blown away by what they're able to do in these ever-changing times, and just a different experience in school. But we wanted to show you the schedule for first grade, typically what it looks like in a week, so you can see the layout. And this year is a bit different. So of course, if you have questions about that specifically, how our schedule looks for COVID times, we're happy to answer. It's not too different. It's just a little bit shortened and tweaked here and there. So I will share my screen and show you a typical day in the life of a first grader. Hopefully you can see this okay. But the 2 beginning blocks of our day when the kids are nice and fresh and wide awake are blocks for language arts. So we kind of had the whole morning to focus on reading skills and phonics and our writing projects. And we'll talk a little bit more about language arts with you in a minute. And then they do have a snack and a recess. And then we have some math time 5 days a week. Typically, we've had this really special math class in first grade called Math Explorations you see on the Wednesday. And that's such a special time. We have stations where we focus on what we're doing in school that week for math, and kind of dive in small groups, dive into a skill and play games. And we have a parent come in to help us. Of course, this year that's been quite different. We haven't had the opportunity to do that, but hopefully we'll start that back up soon. The kids have coding and science, and they also go to French 3 days a week, typically for about 20 minutes. In the afternoon is their specials classes, and they are usually divided into 2 groups and go to those classes. This year they're podding, so the specials teachers come to us. And they have music and PE. They have that Maker Tech class that Carol Mahoney was talking about, and you saw a little bit of a video. Oh, they love Maker Tech. If they ever get a reward or anything, they'll vote on what they'd like. They want more Maker Tech class. And it's just a favorite. And they have a journal writing time. They also have like this little diary. It's a chance for them to just love writing and write what's on their heart, what they're excited about, what they did that weekend, and we write a little note back to them. So it just develops those writing skills and a love of writing outside of language arts, outside of all of the rules and the practice. And then we also have, they've got once a week, typically there's an assembly period at the whole lower school. We come together from 1st through 4th grade and get to see each other and see all kinds of performers and plays and music. And it's just it's incredible, the performers we have come in. And again, this year that hasn't been possible, but that's the longstanding tradition. And we also like to get parents in the classroom to read to the kids and help with that math explorations class. So they do have 2 recesses. I skipped over lunch. I'm sorry. There's another recess there that's a little bit longer. So if you have any questions before we show you sort of an outline of our language arts and math program about the schedule, we'd be happy to answer them. We can always come back to this after.
Yeah, they can feel free to unmute themselves and ask a question or put it in the chat box.
Okay, great. We just wanted to show you an overview of our goals for language arts. You can kind of read these overarching goals, but we want them to learn to read. So we teach the foundation skills to be independent readers, understand what they're reading, to ask questions, and to be independent writers by the end of the year as well. We want to show them the writing process and step do that and model that in every single writing assignment they do, and learn to be descriptive writers. And by the end of the year, they're doing research. It's pretty neat to see the growth over the course of the year. So you'll see that here. These are mostly our writing projects. And ladies, feel free to jump in. I don't mean to.
Oh no, you're doing great, Jeanette.
But we start the year off talking about what a sentence is. What does it need? The components of a sentence. We talk about nouns, verbs, and adjectives, and kind of dive then into how do you make interesting writing? How do we add in descriptive language and answer questions, be a little bit more informative? And then once we're competent with that, we move into what a paragraph is. We're just about to embark on that journey coming up, and they'll write their own paragraphs. And then we go ahead and analyze stories and talk about the parts of different stories and just sort of enjoy them. And then they get to create their own story bit by bit. We go through the writing process and think about brainstorming. We think about organizing our ideas. We edit with the kids one-on-one, and we put all their thoughts into writing. And then we create a final product.
Okay, Jeanette, we have 2 questions. The first one is there time for students to meet with teachers individually if they have questions or need help with material?
Yes, absolutely. Especially even these days, we've got individual group times, which is great. Virtual days, we have afternoon time to meet one-on-one with kids or in small groups. And in school, as I think Makiba mentioned, there's a assistant in each one of our classrooms. We have 2 teachers. There's so much individual attention that we can give and meet with kids and work with them if they need extra help
and the way we've structured the language arts classes, they're especially when we're not in our current schedule, it's 2 periods long. So while we might have a group lesson in part of the period, much of the time is spent in application of whatever it was that we were learning in our group lesson. And we can then break the class into even smaller groups within the classroom so that we can differentiate, but also provide, if 1 or 2 students are still working on a paragraph or they need to edit, or another student has already finished their editing, they might be moving on to something else. There's a lot of flexibility available and a lot of one-on-one time available in that way. And I think there was another question about, is there more than 1 first grade class, which leads into that kind of same thing. There's actually right now 3 first grade classrooms. Usually there are 2 first grades.
That's right.
And then typically pre-COVID, if we had 2 first grade classrooms, last year's first grade was pretty small. We had 15 per grade level. 15 per homeroom. And then of course there are 2 teachers, a lead teacher and an assistant teacher. And I'm trying to let somebody in. So
okay. There's also another question I just saw about, it was mentioned that kids were broken up depending on their skills in math or reading, and what does that look like in the classroom setting, which is a great question. Actually in math, we tend to be, it's heterogeneous. We don't break up. In times past, so last year and all the years before, we have for language arts had, not only do we have 2 first grade classrooms, we also have had 3 language arts classes. So that's how you can keep especially in first grade, the language arts classes a little bit smaller. They don't tend to be broken up exactly by kind of reading ability, which is the way a lot of places do it. It's more about the mode by which a student might benefit to be taught. So there's a class that's a little bit smaller and it's very, very multisensory. There is a class where it's, they don't need quite so much kind of kinesthetic work to absorb information. And then there's a class that is a little bit more, we call it kind of an orthographic approach. Students might be reading already, but they still need that kind of foundational phonics work and the written expression work so that they're kind of focused more on that output, not so much as input, because in reading especially, it does tend to be input before output, and we want to make sure we're supporting kids in all the ways that we can. There's a lot that goes into getting those language arts groupings just right, and it doesn't happen at the very beginning of school. What happens is everybody's in their homeroom for language arts for about a month, and lots of work is being done, lots of assessing, lots of formative and summative assessments performed, and then you kind of start grouping kids in a way that will most benefit them from a teaching perspective. Did that help answer that? I hope that answered that question. That was very long.
Yeah.
I don't see any more questions in the chat box. So first grade teachers, feel free to continue. We have about 5 or 7 minutes left.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so that basically then we move by the end of the year, we're studying the Amazon rainforest in science, and we incorporate that into our language arts, and we're reading a text in language arts to learn about the Amazon rainforest as well, and showing comprehension of that reading. But then by the end, they get to choose any organism. Cool. There's so many amazing trees and plants and birds and animals there. And they do some research and put that into a little report with a lot of guidance, of course, and resources. But it's neat to see kind of the progression over the course of the year. And then as for math, you heard our math coordinator, Ellie Young, speak, and she talked a lot about how we set up this smooth transition from division to division and grade level to grade level. And in first grade, we sort of set the foundation for the rest of their schooling in math all the way through high school. So these are the core concepts that we spend a lot of time on, time and time again throughout the year. We don't hit one topic and leave it be. We are continually coming back to it. That's why you see this timeline of September to June to show this is happening all year long, week by week, and then we're folding in new concepts and ideas and building upon it. These Math Extra series that you see mentioned here, these are sort of like puzzle packets we have that we've got lots of different levels and types of math skills we can address. And this is a great extra for when they're finished their work. And this is very individualized, and students, we can kind of meet them where they are in their math skills and support or extend as needed. There are a lot of, the kids love them. Right now they're doing tangram puzzles. I don't know if you've ever heard of those. They're like 7 shape pieces. They've got to puzzle into a picture, and they're tricky. We have a big discussion on perseverance, but that's kind of our introduction to puzzle packets. So
we do have 2 more questions, Jeanette. One is about space in first grade for next year. And we won't know how many open spots there are until our current families choose to re-enroll or not in February. So current families re-enroll and sign a contract to return to Key School in February. And that gives us our first indication on how many spots could possibly be available. So these are our current kindergarten families will let us know in February if they plan to re-enroll or not, and then we'll work from there. That number is very fluid. Families, you may have decisions to make on whether or not they're relocating. We have military families, we have some families who are making other decisions that would impact their ability to re-enroll in Key School. So we usually, from kindergarten into first, will enroll. The numbers vary every year, so I don't want to give you a number and have that number stuck in your mind. But I would encourage all of you to have your child, if you are interested in Keys first grade, to apply, go through the application process, know whether or not he or she is admissible. And if there is space, we will, of course, admit the child. If there is not space, and they are admissible, they'll be placed on a wait list. And that wait list, we do keep a very close eye on throughout the season. And sometimes we enroll children in June, July, or even August. It's as late as like a week before school begins in August. So we can't give you a definite number on how many spaces are available until February. But even then, that number does change. And then one of the first grade teachers, if you could answer this question, what are your expectations and accomplishments of students by the end of the school year?
Well, there's several facets of that, I would say, in terms of reading. Catherine, I mean, we can all answer this, but Catherine sort of given an overview of that, but
yeah, for reading, I would say that what we're looking for, we kind of tend to think, especially in Key School, in blocks of time rather than specifically by the end of first grade, you need to be able to do this, this, and this. We do have some benchmarks for sure. We would want you to be able to write a sentence, a complete sentence, and understand what that meant. That you would be able to read short vowel to 1 and 2 syllable words in context and apply that, and apply some of the long vowel phonics rules. We would want you to understand the concept of a paragraph and be able to start that writing. I mean, these are all kinds of introductory language arts ideas that you would have a good sight word memory bank at this point. No, those not very easily sounded out words, that you would have those first grade Dolch and Fry lists pretty well into your long-term memory, that you would be able to apply the graphic organizers and things that help you with the writing process. So use them and then apply them to an actual independent writing activity. But there would be varying degrees of how well or independently you'd be able to do any of those things. That's kind of like the overview of those, I think, but there's probably things I'm missing, to be honest with you, because I'm like, need to get our report out and take a look at that one. But then math, I think, is, you could probably, and Jeanette can expand and Kera can expand on that.
right. And for math, we want them knowing their tens. The base 10 system is what everything's based on. So we want them knowing their tens partners, we call them, the numbers that make 10 together. We want them knowing strategies to solve addition and subtraction problems and thinking through problems, to explain and articulate their thinking. It's not all about the answer. There's a lot about the process and how they're thinking about a problem. We want them to get independent in speaking or drawing and writing their ideas. There's so much too with life skills. We have a whole curriculum in life skills. We want the children to be leaving first grade thinking outside of themselves and their experiences, and understanding other experiences and what they can contribute to their community, and thinking about how to collaborate and work together and how to keep friendships and solve problems and stand up, advocate for themselves, stand up for what they know is right, stand up for what they need, and being comfortable in doing that. We work in first grade on that every day. So I would say that's another kind of hope for an accomplishment by the end of the year.
And I wanted to add, so when you're looking to see how they're doing with the expectations and accomplishments, we don't grade in first grade, but we send home a report, which gives such a beautiful picture. It's very extensive, but it gives you a really great whole child picture as to how they're doing in school.
Yeah,
we tend to think of strengths and challenges for the students, and we start that kind of thinking in the first grade, where it's about what what they're accomplishing, but also where they might need support, and that both of those things are going to be true throughout their careers as students. And that just because you don't have it yet doesn't mean you aren't going to get it, and that there are multiple opportunities and multiple timeframes in which to meet any of the standards that we're hoping you meet by the time you get out of lower school. We really do think of it as a continuum, and that it starts here, but that you have time to get there, and that our job is to kind of make that happen and help you make that happen for yourself.
Yeah, all about the grit, right?
Mm-hmm.
The work and the effort that goes into something, and failure and mistakes are important and necessary and beautiful. So all a part of this process.
So if there aren't any more questions, I just put my email address in the chat box for everyone. Again, as the lower school admission counselor, I will partner with each of you if you choose to apply to Key School, working with you to complete the application process. We are able to tour campus only after school from 3:30 to 4, from between 3:30 and 4:30. We're not yet permitted to go into buildings or classrooms because of our safety protocol, but we can certainly tour the exterior. And of course, as we're walking, I'm answering questions and talking and introducing the program to you. So again, my email address is in the chat box. I hope I spelled it correctly, mbarnes@keyschool.org. And I can actually type in my phone number too. So feel free to email or call, and we can schedule a tour. And of course, now that the weather's getting cold, let's do it sooner than later. And we can take it from there.
Thank you for your great questions.
Thank you for being here so much. We
Thank you for your time.
appreciate it. And thank you, Makiba.
Oh, thank you guys. It's always nice to work with my first grade team.